It's yummy time.
Hello everyone, it's Yummy. I'm back again with another video, and today I'm here to talk about the Meta Championship Series number 12. The MCS is a tournament that DK hosts every month, and the prize pool is around $2,000, $1,800. So the stakes are pretty high. It's very competitive and it happens once a month. They're very fun to be a part of, so I'm glad I got to participate in this one. I think the sign up, I might have almost missed the deadline, but I was lucky enough to get in at the last minute. I just like to compete in these because the players who compete in the MCS, they know what they're doing. They're very competitive. A lot of them have made it to Worlds. Again competes in the MCS and he was #1 global for the last XII Cup. So to me, it's just another tournament for me to learn, and it's good for me to experience these things so that I could hopefully become better at this game. So I'm just gonna talk about the decks that I used and go over some replays. As always, I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. One of the decks that I used for the MCS was something that is tried and true. I love vampires, despite during the last Meta Weekly, Black Jesus told me that a lot of people were probably gonna be running Sealed Tombs. I decided to take a chance anyways because for me it was going to be between a vampire deck or a hero deck, and I hate to say it, but I just don't feel like heroes compete as well as vampires do. I think that heroes can be a bit bricky at times. Not to say that vampires can't be, but I do think that I've bricked a little bit more often with heroes than with vampires. And I just like the consistency of a vampire deck where you get to search out a lot of cards, whereas heroes, you rely on banishing Celestial to keep drawing, or you use a D-draw to draw 2 cards. It's a Heroes is a very high risk, high reward deck, and if you don't draw what you need right away, you might end up scooping sometimes. So vampires to me was a good choice, and I also love that vampires can use econ in them. This might change with the next ban list because of how powerful vampires can be. They might semi-limit something in this deck so that we can't run econ in this anymore, but Enemy Controller is a top tier card. It's been semi-limited. It was semi-limited a long time ago, and because of that, you can't play it in Heroes, you can't play it in Furries anymore, you can't play it in Amazonas anymore. Unless people want to sacrifice the better card for the archetype to put in econs. It throws people off when that happens, but anyways, there is a Blackluster Soldier in this deck. I don't rely on it too much because it's only a one of, but when you top deck it, it can be pretty sweet sometimes, especially with Cyber Style. But otherwise, it's been the same deck. I believe DK used this build throughout the KC Cup. No treacherous trap hole or anything. Pretty solid, pretty consistent deck. There you go. The second deck that I used for this MCS was the same deck that I used for the Meta Weekly number 40, which was for hires. There are Cosmic Cyclones in here this time around instead of Galaxy Cyclone because I prefer to banish an Onslaught rather than to destroy one. And Cosmic Cyclone could easily be used against a Vampire Kingdom as well. It's just a pretty good card. I'd rather banish a card than destroy one, but anyways, 2 Mayhem for hires, 1 True Nade, 2 Treacherous Trap Hole for consistency. Pretty solid build. For hires to me are very good to play. Although they are a little bit slower than other decks competitively, I do think for hires give you better control of the board. So that's why I went with this one. Okay, now it's time for some replays. This one's against Digi Channel. I believe this might have been game 2. I know that we played 3 games and he ended up winning 2-1. But this was game 2, and I think it was like the only game that I won against him. So here I am with Yusei playing for hires. He's playing Zane Truesdale, so my guess is vampires, if I remember correctly. So he sets 3. And then I just activate Cosmic Cyclone. And then he ended up setting his monster too, so I still don't know what he's playing, but my first guess is vampires, because a lot of people run Zane with vampires to get Cyber Style. Cosmic Cyclone off, a simultaneous loss. So yeah, of course it's vampires. I set a Mayhem, swing into a Bat, swing with the Dyna. Here, I could have not swung just to not give him a Cyber Style in case his one monster was something like a Vamp or something, but I just ended up swinging anyways. So he activates Sam Skull effect, puts Kazuki in the graveyard, gets a special summon from it, gets the Grace out on the field, and Takeover. And when Grace and Vampire Kingdom are in sync with each other, they get to destroy one card after you mill a card. So he targets my seal, and then he activates the Retainer in the graveyard. He sends his own kingdom from the field to the graveyard to activate Retainer. And because he activated Retainer, he got to search out another Vampire Kingdom, which will give him a 500 attack boost. So here I'm kind of like, oh great, he's just gonna swing, but I have a Treacherous Trap Hole set, so I just end up using it on the Grace and the Retainer. Because Sam Skull has an effect to where if you destroy it by card effects, you get to special summon from the deck. But he responded with an enemy controller, which kind of sucked. But then I remembered I have this Mayhem set. So I just special summon the Wiz in defense mode because he can't swing over it with either the Dyna or the Sam Skull. And he just ended up scooping. So that was it. Because I've played vampires so many times, I feel like I have a good handle on how to play around them. I feel like the plays that you make with vampires can be pretty predictable, unless people start like throwing in random texts or whatever, which I didn't see too much of during the tournament, but overall, it's pretty good. Okay, this is game 3 with Digi Channel, I believe. So I had to go in there with vampires, and it was a mirror match. And mirror matches with vampires are kind of tough. It's kind of a coin flip. It depends on, you know, like what cards you have in your hand, who can get out the cards first. It's, to me, vampire mirror matches are probably the hardest ones, especially if the other person might be running a Kazuki. It's just like an endless cycle of destroying and special summoning that I just feel like, I don't know, like it's a coin flip sometimes. So anyways, gets a Sam Skull, mills a Retainer. He grabs Takeover in his hand to prep for next turn, because that's what you always want for turn 1 vampires. And then he sets 3. So I'm guessing because he set 3, one of those might be a simultaneous loss because I saw it in the other duel. So I was kind of worried here. But he didn't chain his Takeover to my milling with Kazuki. I don't know if that's a term, milling, whatever. Dumping a monster into the graveyard with Kazuki. He didn't chain his Takeover, which is smart because I think he knows that, well, I'm pretty sure he knows that if Kazuki gets destroyed, you get to banish a zombie monster from your graveyard to special summon from your hand. So I would have just activated, or I would have just special summoned Kazuki anyways. He was probably preparing for me to have another monster in hand. I searched out a domain because I had Takeover and Kingdom in my hand already. And I activate Domain's effect just to get the Bat out of the graveyard so I could search out a Grace. And I was a little bit worried here because I had a Vampire Kingdom already, and then I normal summon Grace off of Domain's effect. And normally when I do this, I get a little bit worried because I feel like it's such a high risk play. When you have your whole board set up, like I could have easily played into a Treacherous Trap Hole. Well, maybe not because, well actually yeah, because he doesn't have a trap in the grave yet. So I was worried about a Treacherous in case he was running one of those, but declared a spell card so he could throw one into the graveyard and I could destroy one of his cards. He chained Vampire Takeover to it, and what that does is that puts Kingdom on the field, so that when I have to send a vampire from my deck to the graveyard to activate this Kingdom effect, he gets to destroy one of my cards. So there it goes, 1 for 1. both destroy something, but I got to banish anyways and get Gazuki out on the field. So I just attacked it into his Grace because it was in defense position. Still can't remember what that back row is, but he grabbed Retainer, grabbed Domain. He gets a Grimson on the field. So I feel like here, as soon as he got Grimson on the field, I was like, oh great, like this guy has more LP than I do. He's at 3,000, I'm at 2,500. Part of me thinks that maybe I should have gone for the Grimson plate instead, but I also don't know if I would have had enough LP to keep 3 monsters on the board. So anyway, he swung his Grimsons into my Grace, and he had an Econ set. So that was game. I think either way, had I gone Grimson, I think that the Econ would have still won the game. So I don't know, like, it's hard to play with vampires because you don't know, especially a mirror match, you don't know like what monster they're gonna search out. It's a pretty consistent deck where you can search out your back row or you can search out any vampire monster. And you don't know what your opponent has in their hand already, so it's just kind of hard to play around like what they could be running. Maybe Grimson would have been the better play here, but again, I just don't know if I would have had the LP to keep all my monsters alive, and he had an Econ, so... Anyways, well played, Digi Channel. Okay, I have to talk about this one, because Stevie is someone I've known in the Duel Links community since I started streaming. Like, on day 1 of my stream, I met this guy in my chat, and the MCS was the first time that I'd ever dueled this guy, and I was like, Stevie's won a YCS, he's won an MCS, he's a really good player, like... And I remember when I first started playing Duel Links, just how, and not to say I'm not like that bad now, well I guess I am kind of bad now, but it's a lot worse when I first started out playing and streaming, and this kind of rattled me a little bit. I was pretty intimidated, so anyways, I'm playing for hires and he's playing vampires. He gets out his Retainer, gets a Takeover in his hand, sets it, and I summon a Beat, and I believe he chained Takeover because he was probably afraid of a Wiz play. So it was smart for him to just use Takeover now before it ever got negated. So there it goes, Kingdom on the board. I end up special summoning a Donpa. He got a Vamp from the graveyard with Takeover effect. But I had a Donpa, special summon the Wiz with Donpa, got 1,000 life point boost from it, and then I Cosmic Cycloned off the Kingdom. So the Tie That Binds kind of helped me here, swung over his Retainer, that's gone now. Samurai Skull, mills a Bat. So he ends up swinging into my smaller monsters, and what I really wanted for this game, because his Vamp was gone, I wasn't worried that it was just gonna get taken with the Vamp effect, because you can't activate Vampire Vamp's effect if it's special summon. It's only if it's normal summon, so... I really wanted a Dyna, so I ended up special summoning Seal with Beats, searched out a Dyna, activate Tie That Binds, and all I could do was swing over Sam's Skull. I didn't want to swing into Gazuki because he had monsters in his graveyard, and I feel like he could have just banished and then special summoned, so just didn't, you know, go for Gazuki there. He ends up getting another Kingdom on the board, but his Grace is in the graveyard, so he just gets a 500 attack boost. The reason why I didn't negate this, which I could have because I had 2 monsters in my hand, was just because I didn't want to fall for some kind of bait. So I just let the Kingdom through and let him, you know, like, make his plays. But I wasn't sure if I was, like, waiting for something worse to happen. But it turns out that he just went into the battle phase, attacked my monsters. So I'm sitting on this Wiz in 2800 defense. get Donpa on the field and Dyna, I end up targeting his kingdom so I could destroy that. So now he doesn't get a 500 attack boost again. But now I have a Donpa in attack mode, which sucks. But I had to do it just to get the destruction effect off of Donpa. So he activates Kazuki again, mills his bat. He econs my Dyna in defense mode. And again, it was just a thing where I had no idea if he was trying to bait me or not. Because he had another card in his hand and it could have been some other spell. I don't know. But whatever. I let it through. He attacks my Donpa and now I'm at 700 life points. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, what do I do? I'm sitting on this Wiz in defense mode, and so I just end up bluffing a True Nade, and we end up drawing for a few turns. This guy changes all of his monsters to defense. And this is the point where I was like... This is the point where I'm just like, Stevie's really good at baiting people, or playing mind games, because, again, like, I didn't know if I should have negated the spells. I didn't know if he was trying to bait out a negate from me, so I just let them through. So I just set the Treacherous, activate it for Kazuki. I didn't want him to mill anything again with Kazuki. I don't know if that would have helped him or not, but... So he has 2 Sam Skulls on the field, and that's all he has, and I figure, oh my god, this guy can't swing over me. But because he switched his Sam Skull to defense, he had 2 monsters left. And he was at 900 life points. And I was like, this guy probably doesn't have anything anymore. He can't swing over me with the Wiz. He doesn't have anything. So, me, being the greedy little player that I am, I get a seal on the board, and I get Recon out, which I shouldn't have done. And I start swinging, and this guy had a Spear Karibo. He had a Karibo. He had a Karibo. He had a Karibo. And he was waiting for me to swing. And then he activated Cyber Style and tributed off his monster for a Vampire Dragon, which I've never even seen before. But it's a level 5 and it's only 1 tribute and it's 2400 attack. So, basically he baited me into attacking. And I ended up losing the duel. And, like, oh my god, I have such PTSD from it. Oh my god, it's so bad. I'm so mad at myself for this duel. Like, if I had just not gotten greedy, I could have decked him out. And I knew that sitting there, I was like, do I want to just deck this guy out or do I just want to swing now? And I feel like if I just waited on the Wiz and just decked him out, I could have won that one. I don't think he had anything to swing over. His kingdoms were gone. He didn't have a vamp anymore. He didn't have a lot of cards anymore. And at the turn that he won, he had 2 cards left in his deck. And for whatever reason, just got really greedy. I got really, like, I got so debated with that Sam Skull in defense. And now I'm, like, super upset with myself. I just didn't want to win a duel by decking out. I just feel like that's not a way that I ever want to win. But sometimes if that's your only win con, then you might as well just do it. So, whatever. Lesson learned. If the guy only has 3 cards in his deck left and you have like 7, just deck him out because you could just end up losing. That was the 4th round as well. That was the final round of the MCS Swiss pool. And at that point, during Swiss, I was already at 3 wins, 3 losses. So being at 3-3, I kind of, especially going against Stevie for my final round, I kind of honestly didn't even think I was gonna win that round. So I ended up ending the MCS Swiss pools with 3 match wins and 3 match losses, I think, if I'm saying that correctly. 3 rounds, whatever, 3 rounds and and 4 rounds lost, but... So, I ended up being 42nd in my pool. I don't even remember how many people were in each pool. I think that maybe there was like 80 people in each pool. I have no idea. Maybe 70, who knows, but I did better than I thought I would. I do think that I've been learning in the last few weeks. I think maybe there was a little bit less misplays here and more... I wouldn't really call them misplays if it's like me falling for mind games, which I guess you could call it a misplay for getting baited. But yeah, I don't know. I guess getting baited is just like, or like the mind games are just part of the whole tournament experience. Like you don't see people trying to bait things out of you or playing games with you, like mind games with you on the ladder. It's all about just on the ladder for the most part. People make like the same plays. They're pretty predictable, but in tournaments, people add in the most random techs, like Stevie using a vampire dragon. I had never even seen that card before that day. And I was like, what is this? Like, who is playing vampire dragon? Like, that's so weird. And like people tech in random stuff, like needle sealing sometimes is used in tournaments just because it's like a curveball. A lot of drowning mirror forces in tournaments, whereas you don't see too many drowning mirror forces on the PvP ladder. So I think that me playing in tournaments just kind of exposes me to that kind of mindset. Like, people are playing for a ton of money and they're gonna do anything it takes to get first place. They're gonna add all of these techs that are hard counters to other decks. That rhymed. This MCS especially was a huge learning experience for me because normally I'm dealing with like just random tech cards, but I have such PTSD from that duel with Stevie that that I'm like, oh, maybe I should rethink my gameplay now. Like, maybe I should rethink my tactics. Bluffing, always a good idea. Good job, well played, Stevie. Overall, the MCS was really fun. I always enjoy playing the MCS. I do get really tilted at the end of the day, though. Just because I have to wake up so early for the MCS, but I can't really complain because there's people from like Japan and Europe who are playing at the most random times of the day as well. Thank you, Decade, for always putting on these tournaments every month. He doesn't have to do it, but he does it for the community, and I think they're a good experience overall. The Meta Weekly is also a great experience. The Meta Weekly is a lot more casual, but there's still a good chunk of change. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you on stream on Friday at 4 p.m. PST. So, yeah. Bye!